you have a choice in that moment. Like, you can play victim for a very long time, or you can choose a path that's like, great, now I know what that feels like.
Yeah, right. Welcome to Extraordinary Stories. I'm your host, Forbes Shannon, and in studio today is also one of the coolest titles ever, the community architect, with what you've built with Freeway Phoenix and how you're constantly giving to our community, building it up, connecting the big pieces with the talent. I'm really excited you're here. You embody the spirit of the Extraordinary Collaborative. Daniela Santangelo. Daniela, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
So you were nominated by myself and by Aaron Bear. How do you know us, I guess?
I know you from Venture Cafe. So when I first moved back to Arizona in late 2022,
Mhm.
that was one of the first places I went to events wise to get reconnected to the ecosystem.
That's cool.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
Aaron, I think, was through maybe Chris Fox.
Oh, yeah.
So
Chris Fox is good people.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's great to see all of us growing together these past few years. It's been epic.
100%. Yeah. Good people know good people. Freeway is you got so many things that Freeway does for the community without overextending yourself. Let's kind of talk about you as the community builder, and let's start with what Freeway does, and then we'll unpack it, how it got
Absolutely.
here.
Yeah, so Freeway was really born out of the community in 2024. Um, it's an opportunity for an interior market like Phoenix to have more access
Mm,
because that's what founders and startups need is accessibility.
yeah.
And given we're an interior market, we don't have it as easy as the coastal cities. But I think we do have a great opportunity to build something that's meaningful and sustainable and not have those levels of saturation that we are all too familiar with. So, Freeway is a public private initiative really helping to connect talent, capital, and community. Um, when you look at the desert, we're very spread out. Things are very fragmented. In 2024, we launched a dashboard that's
Mm,
AI powered to really provide the pulse of the ecosystem, like
mm,
what's the venture capital activity, a heat map statewide of what's happening throughout Arizona. So that was really a landmark asset for us to bring into the community because there's a lot to demystify about
yeah.
what's happening here. So that was one kind of big milestone, and then our tech talent summits have been our flagship events that are more, the people first approach to bringing talent, capital, and community under one roof, to really create those solid connections of what people are looking for.
So where does your love for Arizona come from?
Well, this is my second time living here.
Mm,
So I grew up in Connecticut,
okay.
and if you've spent time in the Northeast, it's you don't like to shovel and just be in that environment, right?
No, no.
So it's funny. My sisters and I were actually plotting a path to moving to Phoenix. I'll never forget. I have two younger sisters, and we had the map quest printed out of like, Mom, Dad, we're just gonna road trip, and we're gonna stop in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we're gonna. So I always wanted to live here. I had a couple of family members who were out here seasonally,
Okay.
and in 2004, my mom got a job offer that relocated us out here.
Okay.
So that was
Cool.
my first time here for 9 years.
Okay.
I was in the corporate relocation world. And then I left. I had an opportunity to live in San Francisco area and Miami.
Okay.
And then I came back here in 2024. So I will always have presence and roots in Arizona. My grandma lives here.
Mm.
Sisters are here too. So
So a red thread is talent that I'm seeing.
yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I spent 10, 12 years in corporate relocation, which obviously is very talent focused
Yeah.
too. So there is a common thread there.
Mhm.
Yes.
So what is it about people that excites you?
Um, well, I was born and raised from an Italian immigrant family,
Okay.
and I think it started way back when, of just the art of gathering is like very embedded in
Yeah.
the ethos of who I am, right?
Mhm.
So my grandparents were always having people over, and
Mm.
with my family immigrating over, like a big part of their origin story is people,
Right.
right? My
Mhm.
grandfather created a construction company.
Mm.
He was the main entrepreneur in our family, and that's where I get a lot of my spirit from. But it's like when you're in a community, when you're in a neighborhood, how do you find the like-minded people? How do you create joy and laughter and wealth together? And that's just something that really feeds me and fuels me.
You strike me as like the ideal neighbor. Is that true?
I would say maybe, like, yeah, something like that. I think it's interesting, if you look at local community neighborhoods versus, like, ecosystems and business, maybe I'm a little bit more on that side
Okay. Uh-huh.
versus but at the same time, I have 2 boys, and I will tell you that our house is the
It's
spot
the
for
spot.
8 to 10 boys over at any time, so maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit.
My house was also the spot. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
those were great memories growing up where your house was the house that people wanted to hang out at.
Absolutely,
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah.
Another thing that fascinates me about you is this ecosystemic approach you have. So, what is it about thinking in terms of scale that, like, where did that come from in either your personal or your professional life?
Yeah, I think I got a little obsessed with the book Startup Communities by
Okay.
Brad Feld.
Hmm.
And I just loved how he really laid out the principles
Hmm.
of healthy and, efficient ways of ecosystem
Mm.
building.
Okay.
And because he provided the framework for like what worked in Boulder, Colorado and what worked in Silicon Valley, it felt like a challenge for me of, okay, there's an interesting playbook here, but then how do we adapt it for what's uniquely Arizona?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's really where it came
Hmm.
from.
So, you know, in that about I think the key word there was the healthy ecosystem.
Hmm.
You know, it's it's interesting in seeing, like, for example, Phoenix grow. There's been different pockets of communities, and one of the goals of Venture Cafe Phoenix, for example, was to bring people together. There was like a sort of a clickiness, and so as a community builder, like, where does the clickiness come in? Is it real? Is it not? Is it imagined? Do people just need to be heard? Like, what is the solution?
And I think there's a couple of different elements to healthy community building. There's the individual standpoint and then these organizational
Mm,
aspects of it and, operating principles. And because we're running public private, it's important for me to be working with civic groups and government organizations that share some of those values.
hmm.
For example, government as the enabler is like one of the principles that Brad
Mm,
Feld lays out. And I think it's a very, it could be a hot topic for some organizations where it's like, how much is the government controlling the entrepreneurial experience in a community versus enabling it, which
yeah.
is like, we support your mission at Freeway. We want to help support what's happening here.
Mhm.
Right. So 2, like, vastly different areas, but I think if you look at, I'm picturing in my mind just like this hub and spoke
Yeah.
type model of if you have the right elements there, you have the programmatic layers, you have the capital partners, you have the talent just in community, and you have the CEOs who are out there knowing that there's a community that can help support, the space, the
Mhm.
talent, the capital of what they need to grow and scale.
Got it. Okay. So now this is kind of an off the wall question, but what was it where you were like, I'm the person to bring stakeholders together? Like, where does that come from?
My mom is a badass.
Yeah. Okay.
She was a breadwinner in the family, and I think I was around her leadership style quite
Okay.
a bit,
Mhm.
and, she's very direct. I
Mhm.
saw her climb the corporate ladder, um, but I also think, I've been using this term lately of, like, I went to the Phoenix Symphony, and I was really infatuated with the maestro.
Okay.
And I was like, "Ooh," like, I really resonate with that
Mhm.
as a persona where I don't have to be the one delivering the program, but I like to see the orchestra around me and know that the support exists here. We have all the pieces. We just need the cohesion and the connectivity to be a little bit more seamless.
We'll call you Maestro, just like that character in Seinfeld who insisted on going by Maestro.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad you brought up your mom because you're also a champion for women entrepreneurs and women leaders. What has that journey been like? Uh,
And single moms.
and single mom. I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
so championing those groups and relating, what's your favorite part about that?
My favorite part about that is that we're allowed to rewrite those rules.
Mm,
Like what are grandma did and what our mom did, like, got us to where we are now, but I'm a big advocate of changing that lineage for the better, for the next generation. And, like, my mom, she had 2 to 3 jobs at a time. She also was running a daycare out of the house, like, she was doing massive amounts of things, but I think, we're in this age now where I believe that well-being and business success should coexist, and it should be at the expense of, I'm a mom and I need to just do the stay-at-home mom thing, like, we're allowed to do both. So I think giving ourselves permission to design life in our career in a way that is fueling the way that we want to move around, move about the world.
Mhm.
And I feel like, we won't get too masculine and feminine energy, like,
We totally can. That's been a red thread in a lot of these episodes, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think it's so easy to fall back on the patterns of masculine energy in business. And I would say as of late, like, I would say within the last 2 years, maybe a little bit less, of what does it feel like for me to just trust and flow and know that it's a foregone conclusion, like, success is inevitable. Just enjoy what's happening right now.
Mhm.
So, I think like, my mom would never have said that,
Yeah,
when she was raising a family of 3 and
right. Mhm.
having multiple jobs. So, I think that's a challenge for me is, like, as much as possibly can, enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
As a single mom, I'm with my kids 95% of the time.
Mhm.
So, the present time,
Yeah.
can't put a price tag on that at 7 and 9 years old.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And yeah, so I just think in general, women, leaders, moms, entrepreneurs, like, it's hard, right? But I think the more that we can, as a collective, come together to share the best practices, to share the hacks and how we're able to forge the path for ourselves and our family, not at the expense of our well-being, is where it's at.
Mm. Now, how does that perspective, and your advocacy stuff, how is that reflected in being a boy mom?
I am given the biggest privilege of
Uh-huh.
my life is
Yeah.
to raise, you know, grounded, emotionally intelligent, good men.
Mm. I
And,
love that.
I don't know if we have enough time for, why I feel like God gave me my 2 amazing little boys,
Mhm.
to do that. I've definitely had my history like most women with some traumatic things with men in my life,
Sure.
but I really feel like every day raising my boys, I know that they will be this next evolution of young men that are secure and confident
Mhm.
and happy
Mm.
and seeing the world as a beautiful place.
Yeah, for sure. I I've noticed, um, with, like, women in my generation, um, when I was dating before I met my partner, was the bar was on the floor of what was, expected. And, I'm curious how, you know, this dynamic, both personally and professionally, like, kind of what you're seeing because you work with so many people, especially young people who are looking for, the new and up and coming talent, have you seen a shift in their values or their social skills or, like what how does that play into the ecosystem's overall health?
Such a good question. So I do a lot of advisory work for startup founders, CEOs, and I find myself in this like coaching role
Mm,
more often than not, where I'm observing um, elements of a CEO perhaps like not being in that power position to go out and close that $5 million, right? And finding a path that maybe is not the most efficient one,
mm,
right? And allowing myself to zoom out and tune in to how are they like mind, body, soul.
yeah. Mhm.
So I've really enjoyed just authentically being able to have conversations like, we might get on a call to do a fundraise strategy, but if it means that we need to, like, do a meditation first and just tune into our body,
Mhm.
then that's what they need right now. And I've seen, some of the, some men, even men that I'm working with, like, it doesn't matter, female or male, like, it's the human condition that sometimes we just need to have some stillness
Yeah.
and really, like, discover a little bit more, of what's blocking us from being that next version. And I'm really an advocate for, you have to play the part, right?
What do you mean?
When you're going out there to fundraise, like, it's not going to feel comfortable,
Mm,
because what would the $5 million, successful raise founder, you are drastically a different person after you go through that process. How can you start embodying those traits now? Right? What would that person do? How are they waking up? Who are they surrounding themselves with? How are they presenting themselves on video, in person? So just trying to shorten that gap,
mm,
and, coaching them in a way that's giving them permission to just be that now, because you are.
So it sounds like you're talking about like an identity shift.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. I think there's a little bit more of that.
mm, that's cool. So let me ask you, what role did stillness and a focus on mind, body, and soul have in your identity shift?
So much. Um it reminds you of what's important. I think in such a noisy world with all the external stimuli, from just information consumption to news, media, all that stuff, is like what actually matters. It's our health, it's our connection with people, it's our children if we're raising children. So I think just having more awareness with what actually matters helps to just reprioritize where you're spending your time. And there's definitely some days where I'm like, Freeway has way too much of my
Mhm.
time.
Sure.
Right? And how can I have a real talk with myself and what my highest and best use is? And I've been eating the cleanest that I've ever have, and learning about cellular nutrition, and, like, want to be around for my kids as long as I can. So I think the reframe into, starting the day, filling your cup first, like, all these, but actually practicing that.
Right. And so I'm curious, like from an individual to the ecosystemic level, it sounds like what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like the healthiest ecosystem is an ecosystem where the individuals are taking care of themselves first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And asking for what they need from the community. Like, we're all about community feedback as we're building and growing, and, like, the cities want to know that as well, right? So voice of customer, I believe in every great economy, in the center are the founders, the builders, the creators. So if we can't speak up over, what we expect in a healthy community, if it's, whatever it is, closed mouth stays hungry. So
Something I've always envied about you is you ask for help very effectively. You ask for it authentically, you ask for it well, and you ask for it when you need something. And people, that's a skill I'm working on, is asking for help. Where did you learn that power?
I mean, it probably is the last part of what I just said, that came from my mom,
Mm,
of closed mouth stays hungry.
mhm,
Like, the worst they can say is no.
yeah. Mhm,
And, I think I do think I've gotten pretty good at asking for help and not being shy around the fact that, like, hey, we're a community organization. Like, this might not be the budget that you're seeking, but let me share what our mission is. And if that aligns with you, then, let's do this together. So, I think that when you have big dreams and you have big vision, you can't do it alone. You have to ask for help. And when you do that, it's just interesting to see the people who come through that are willing to lean in.
so, what is the vision for you, Daniela, personally?
Me personally, I would love to continue to help other underserved markets all over the world. I think Phoenix has been a really interesting experiment, if you will, and we've had incredible impact. But I'm very much a globally minded person.
Mhm.
And I'd love to bring Phoenix to the world.
Mm,
So we're actually, haven't said this publicly,
okay.
Tech Talent Summit Balkans is happening
Wow.
this summer in
Congratulations.
July.
Okay.
and still having a thread back to Phoenix, right?
Mhm.
Because Phoenix, from a US standpoint, Phoenix is a great soft landing spot
Mm.
for the right founders and funders and individuals. But, the Balkans is a region that's very underserved for entrepreneurship. And, I'm thrilled to be in that community talking to individuals and breaking through like, why not be a business owner, right? How do we curate more of those opportunities to financial freedom? And I think there's a big mindset shift that we'll see happen in that region, hopefully.
Cool.
So yeah, I think big picture is
How
go global.
how'd you get to the Balkans?
So my first startup, we had an office in Belgrade, Serbia.
Okay.
So we had about 200 people there at our peak
Mhm.
time, and I still have really great connections out there. And it's just been this iterative process of like, wait, this summit thing that you're doing, I think that could be repeatable. Like we need that here. How do we do something, to really converge talent and capital? So accepted the challenge and
Cool.
yeah, I'd love to see it come through.
Do you have any secrets on how you, like, nurture these relationships over a long period?
Yes. I mean, communication, right? Like authentic communication, understanding what other people's interests are
Oh, yeah.
and aligning your conversations around that,
Mhm.
plus what your interests are, right?
Yeah.
Like lead with what's important to them. For some people, it's lead generation. For some people, it's their brand and visibility.
Yeah.
But I'm very direct with that.
So what like, I've noticed that extraction happens a lot, and it's leaders like you who lead with giving that tend to break through, you know? Before we started the episode, we were just talking about just the importance of listening and
Mhm.
how so many times people are just so quick to tell you what they got going on that they're not even interested in listening to you,
Right.
right? How do you maintain that balance even when you got like really good news to share, but you come in listening and finding out what their interests are? Like, how do you do that?
Breathe. No, but literally your heart rate, like,
Yeah.
that helps, and I think, yeah, I actually do think it's a lot of, like, the physiological stuff of,
Mm.
like, your breath and even, like, your tone of voice, I've had to tune into that personally with me, like, I get excited and I'll start like, "Oh,"
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
But, I think when we're a little bit more grounded in how we're conversating that for me at least, like, I feel like my heart is a little bit more open to connect with that individual versus talking about my agenda.
Yeah. And how how do you maintain an agenda with it on an ecosystemic level where a new stakeholder shows up and now you're going to fit them into your
Mhm.
agenda? Like, how do you put those puzzle pieces together?
Yes, so that has definitely taken some time to
Mm.
distill down the pillars, but it's very clear now. It's talent, capital, and community. So, those are the categories. You're gonna fit into one of them in some way, shape, or form. If not, we're probably not a good fit for each other,
Mhm.
right? So I think that has become very clear and it's been easy to align interest with those pillars. And then it becomes even more clear to attendees and other individuals who are involved in what we're doing to really understand like, okay, that we understand where their lane is. We know where they sit in the ecosystem and how they can be of service to me.
Was there a moment where you saw or felt your impact? Kind of like this, like, okay, I am doing something here.
Yeah. I think each time we do these summits, I have this like pinch me moment of like, oh my gosh, we did it
Yeah.
again.
Hmm.
Right. And when I think it's usually like at the opening remarks and just seeing the
Oh, it's
amount
at
of
the beginning.
people.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I think it's the bookends. I think it's the beginning and then the end.
Mm.
And it's funny this last one we had kind of a green room for our team or a pre whatever,
Yeah.
media room for a team upstairs, and my friend Nicole Zeno, who was helping
Mhm.
me out, we did like a little shake, like a little body shake of just
Yeah.
like, all right, we got this, you
Mhm.
know? But hearing people's feedback is incredibly rewarding. You know, a summit is a long day, and there's some people who stay till the very end and help us put away the chairs. You know, like they just are leaning it, like they want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
To hear about the hires that happened after the event, which, you know, it's really hard to track that, but we see the LinkedIn post of like, I met this person at the summit
Mm,
and we hired them.
yeah.
That to me is major validation
Mhm.
that we're doing the right thing.
I think, whether it's one of these extraordinary events, whether it was Venture Cafe Phoenix, whether it was a comedy show, for me, it was I always find one moment in the night where I'm alone, like by myself, and it's the first time I get to breathe. And I can look out and see all the people having a good time. And that is my okay, this mattered,
Mhm.
right? When you are designing the experience of Daniela, when the world is experiencing you, what is the intentional emotion you are designing for people to feel after they walk away from talking to
Mm, such a good question. Like if she can do it, I can do it.
you? Okay.
And I think that's part of, you know, why I tell my story in such a vulnerable way that like it wasn't the rainbows and unicorns that got me here. It was, you know, the messy part of startup building that brought me to a path of something that's more purpose driven and, you know, having a larger network effect and the potential of the community impact, right? So and also like the setback aspect. Like we all have setbacks, right? And you have a choice in that moment. Like you can play victim for a very long time, or you can choose a path that's like, great, now I know what that feels like.
Yeah. Right. The first time I ever bombed on stage, a comedian came up to me and he said, "Congratulations. Now you know what that's like."
It's so true.
Took all the fear away. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I'm still alive. Yeah.
As long as you get that lesson, you are allowed to move on to the next one.
Right. 100%. Um, what I'm curious about is what you have been curious about lately.
Hmm. So many directions to go there. I am I'm curious about so we're moving into this phase 2 of Freeway right
Okay.
now, and I'm curious, like, how bold we're going to be with what we put out
Mm,
into the world.
how bold we're going to be.
Mhm.
What does that mean?
And I think that we've been a little passive on productizing access, if you will. You know, it's been this beautiful convergence of connection, but there's an opportunity for it to be productized in a meaningful way
Mm,
that can show how we are effectively moving the needle of more growth and getting to that critical mass of companies scaling and growing and exiting. So, yeah, I'm curious. And, you know, we all, as visionary CEOs, you know this, right?
yeah.
We all have our creative process.
Mhm.
And I'm curious what Daniela is going to do
Mhm.
in the next couple of months
Yeah.
to really have something that I think is going to be very special for these interior market communities to separate, you know, separate from, again, the learnings and the saturated markets of what we don't wanna do.
Yeah. So to bring it full circle to what you were talking about earlier about identity shift and alignment, um, how bold is Daniela going to be? If you could be as bold as you wanted, what does that look like in order for Freeway to also be that bold?
Mm. She's waking up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
She's doing her hot yoga while her kids are still sleeping.
Uh-huh.
She's eating salad in the morning. No, joking, not joking.
Yeah.
But I do think it's taking a lot of the advice that I'm giving to
Mm,
the startups that I'm advising for, and like, let's I want to allow myself to embody that now, right? How do we get Freeway to an MRR that feels good? And that's not just another membership for the sake of membership.
mhm,
It's we're doing this because we've listened to the community.
mhm,
We know that Phoenix should be punching above their weight.
mhm,
And here's what we're gonna do to support that that collective ecosystem shift that we should all be making.
mm,
So I think that's what I'm challenged with is,
yeah,
don't do the thing just to do the thing. Like
right,
it's really, and I don't have it right at this second.
mhm.
So
So, you said something interesting there. Why is it so hard for us to not take the advice we so easily give to other people?
because it's the armchair quarterback method, right? It's just like when we're observing and seeing it, it's
Mhm.
different than dishing it ourselves. But I also think, it's very much a conscious, subconscious thing where we know, like we're our own worst enemy sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But
I would go further to say I am my own I am the only enemy I have.
sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
But we have to practice what we preach, and I truly believe that, if you want to see change in the people you work with or in the communities you live in, you have to be part of that change. Like that, to me, that's the only way that you can change.
I ask this question to everyone that comes on Extraordinary Stories. If you had one piece of advice for our listeners to do today that would help them live more extraordinarily, what would it be?
It's so good. Um, make the ask.
Mm, make the ask.
Probably put another zero on it.
And put another zero on it. I love that. Awesome. You can read more about Daniela Santangelo and Freeway at joinextraordinary.com. That's JOINEXTRAORDINARY.com. I'm Forbes. Daniela, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.